video is going to be how to solder together a basic ring band. For example, like the one I'm wearing. So let's get into the tutorial. Just basic wire and solder, we're going to create a little ring band. So to start, we're just going to be taking our sterling silver wire and cutting it to a specific length. So I'm about a size 7, which is 54 millimeters. So I'm just going to be using my wire cutters, and you can size it to any ring size that you want. Just Google ring size chart millimeters and you can get the conversions pretty easily. And now we have the start of our ring band. So then snip off any uneven ends. And now we're going to kind of bend it into shape. And to do so, we're going to be using the ring mandrel. And then just bend that around close to the size that you want it. And then you're gonna have a horseshoe shape. So then you want to just sand off any uneven edges again, just to get a perfect flat surface. And I just use my nail file to do that. And then to be able to solder that together, you need to make sure there's a lot of tension between the two sides of the ring, so that way when you apply high heat, they don't just spread apart, that they more combine together. Then the solder is more likely to flow onto both sides if you just eliminate all the gap in between. So getting a flat surface on both edges is important so that the solder will flow evenly. So once again, you just take that horseshoe shape and then you bend it with some jeweler's pliers into this other shape. So now your piece is ready to be soldered. And I'm using hard solder. And I just cut it up into little pieces. You really don't need a lot. And then you just want to coat your metal in flux. You can coat the whole thing or you can just coat the seam. Take a piece of solder and put that onto the seam so it's touching both sides. And then you want to make sure it's just sitting on top. The flux will kind of help hold it in place. You're going to want to take your torch and then just start circling the ring. Slowly get closer and closer and closer until you're kind of in the middle of the ring. You're going to want to make sure that you are applying even heat to the whole piece. You also want to make sure not to overheat your metal. So if it does start to turn a bright red, almost translucent color, you're going to want to stop and back off the heat immediately. You're going to want to watch your piece of solder very carefully, because as soon as that starts to flow, you're going to want to take the heat off of your piece. So watch and see if you can tell when the solder is melting. This is very crucial. So after you have your soldered band, you want to immediately drop it into some water just to cool it down. Be very careful not to touch the hot metal. You will burn yourself, and any tools that are close to it might be hot too, so just be careful. And now we can go ahead and shape the ring. So using my ring mandrel. So you're just going to want to squish that on. You can kind of bend the metal around if you can to get it on there. And then just hammer out any of those harsh edges so that everything starts to get round. It still could have a few squiggles or like indents in it. So what I like to do is stretch it out at least to half size, just to make sure it's perfectly circular. And you can also stretch it out to like 1 or 2 sizes larger, but it can cause the metal to become too work hardened, and then it's more likely to break. So then to get it off, since sometimes it does get kind of stuck on there, is I just hammer it a few times to loosen it up, and then it usually pops right off after that. And then you're gonna wanna clean the silver in a pickle. So this is my citric acid pickle in my ultrasonic jewelry cleaner. I'm just gonna drop that in. And then you can leave it in there overnight. I like to leave it in there for a few hours. Then I drop it into my baking soda solution. You can see the bubbles. So here you can just see a before and after. And then I use a steel wool Dremel head. You can just use regular steel wool to clean it. And this will just get off any residue or anything that's on the metal still. Here is your cleaned ring. And then to finish it up, you can polish it with silver polishing cloths. I like to use these red polishing cloths. So it just cleans off all the oils and shines it up. And now you have a ring. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys learned how to make a simple ring band. Send me pictures on Instagram or Twitter. If you guys recreate this ring band, I want to see what you guys can do. If you need to ask me any other questions, I'm available on Twitter and Instagram. You can also comment below and I can do like a little follow-up video. Next time I'm going to show you guys how to add a bezel to your ring and then finally set some stone. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.